Done. Okay. Let's call this meeting to order. This is Waldeboro Planning Board, November 13. Um, First item on the agenda here is to determine a quorum. We have 4 board members here today out of potential 5. We need 3 for a quorum, so that is satisfied. We'd like to welcome our new member, Margot Riley. Do you want to introduce yourself or anything?
I'm not sure what exactly to say, but I'm recently retired and I've worked in project management and construction in my jobs before retirement in the last 15 years or so, and I'm excited to have a chance to serve and work with everybody here.
Great, thank you. Next item is adjustments to the agenda. Are there any proposed adjustments? Hearing none, we'll move on to citizen comments. This section is for comments that are not related to the 2 applications that we're hearing. Does anybody have any comments related to another issue? All right, hearing none. Let's move on to the subdivision pre-application review. We have a lot of work to do tonight. We're trying to get out of here by 8 o'clock if possible. The most of this time is going to be spent on the cell tower application review, I'm assuming. Just wanted to give a couple ground rules before we're talking. Everyone will have a chance to say whatever they want to say about these projects. You'll have all the time that you want. Please keep your comments to yourself and don't talk over people. If you want your chance, you'll have it. The way these are going to work is the applicants are going to make a presentation about their project. Then we'll have comments from the board, and then we'll open it up to citizen comments. When you're making your comments, if you would come to the podium. If you'd rather not, please speak loud enough so that everybody can hear you, and we can hear you on the YouTube broadcast as well. And please give your name so that you can be recorded in the meeting minutes. So 900 Winslow Mills Road. Who is the applicant for this subdivision? Great. Would you like to take the podium and introduce it?
Put stuff down.
Okay.
Because sometimes the papers mess up with the big.
What do you want us to introduce ourselves, or are you?
Sure.
I'm Bobby Young. This is Ryan O'Donnell, and we've recently kind of joined forces. My background's in real estate since 2000, and he's in excavation, earthwork. And we currently have property under contract at 900 Winslow Mills Road, and we are looking to do 4 lots. It's over 12 acres, do a 4-lot subdivision. We're trying to generate a little bit more of affordable housing, do some improved house lots, be able to offer them to people, and maybe do package deals or sell them just as improved lots, but really just trying to help the whole housing industry and do something a little bit more affordable with my background and his background and doing this together. So the packets include everything that I was told to bring to the first meeting. I do have larger copies of the preliminary that have been done prior to us being involved in this, because this had been thought about before, quite a few years ago. Same surveyors working on it now to complete it if we do have approval, Gartley and Dorsky. And they did the preliminary. So if you want a larger copy, I do have some copies here. I know the smaller one wasn't very legible. So basically, we do have approved DOT for entrances off 32, all four directly straight in. I checked with them today and I hadn't received them in the mail yet, but they were signed yesterday. So he said I probably would have them Monday in the mail. Otherwise, I was hoping to bring them tonight. All four lots previously, soil tested and, preliminary designs done, which have since expired, but you do have copies of those. So we have, upon approval, we'll have those redone, and finalized as well. Does that cover everything? Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Got a quick question for you, Bobby. I work out on a gym there on Winslow Road, and I'm amazed at the traffic, the volume, and it seemed like everybody is speeding. Is there like a line of sight when these driveways come out? Do you have any concerns about traffic and that type of thing?
Well, and that's why before coming here tonight, we were really pushing to get DOT, and we actually, somewhat insisted that we wanted to be there with them as well. And the big concern, and the contract was contingent, the purchase and sale that we're in is contingent upon getting those, entrance, permits for that reason. And yeah, he was there for quite some time. We staked out where, we were hoping to put them so that he could do all of their, measuring and sight distance and all the things that they do. And they met all the criteria that they needed. I'm not, and, they were all approved. So,
Can I piggyback on that?
Mhm.
Because that was the big question I had, and I saw that you had the approval pending.
yes,
But what's the frontage to Route 32 for each of those lots in feet roughly?
the road frontage of each lot.
Yeah.
They're all over, they're either at 200. This actually has the dimensions on them, and that's why I brought this.
Some of the print is really hard.
Exactly. That's why she said bring the larger one. I didn't have all, extra copies at the time of submitting that, but I do have some here. But they're all 200 or just a little over 201, 202. So they do meet that.
And just, you might not know, somebody in the room may know the answer to this. I mean, if that continues to be a concern, and I mean, I realize that people don't always obey the speed limit going through there. I'm just wondering if all of that goes in, how big a deal it is to move that speed limit sign to the other side of the property, so people slow down before they get into where it gets more densely developed. I don't know if that's something that you would chase down, or
That's a DOT.
that's a DOT. That was the only other thought, because that was, I had the same concern Johnny did.
One thing that you don't have in your application materials here are a stormwater plan or an erosion control plan. We sometimes waive this, but if you're gonna be developing the lots, the erosion control plan and stormwater plan needs to be part of the application.
What do you require for a stormwater plan?
The state DOT, state DEP, right, the DEP erosion control. I'm sure you're familiar with it, being an excavation
I mean,
contractor.
Erosion control is one thing, but stormwater, I don't, yeah, I'm just.
Oh, yeah, we're the stormwater requirements are in the land use ordinance under let's find them here.
I guess I do.
We're basically trying to make sure that the development of the site doesn't cause, undue runoff. It's a pretty straightforward thing. You hire an engineer, they'll write you a document showing how much water is hitting the site, where it's going, the direction of travel. These are pretty small lots. It's a pretty simple thing. I know that the site's all sloping down towards Route 32. It's all going into the ditch. So that's what the engineer will show on the stormwater plan.
So is that required on any subdivision, even if it's 3 lots? I mean,
Yeah, we don't have like a
I mean, no
large and
road
small
without
subdivision.
roads going through the whole development. I mean, these all have their
It's
own.
individual lots, that's why I
Yeah.
asked. It's like-
Yeah, it's something that's, it's a requirement. It's a good idea for us to do so that we, know that the development of the lot isn't gonna create a problem for the stormwater system in general, the neighbors, all that sort of thing. So, I'm sure Gartley and Dorsey can handle that for you.
They can handle anything for money.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the paragraph in here for you. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward subdivision. I had the same question about the entrances and the road frontage and the sight lines. It sounds like, well, that's fine. So I don't see any real showstoppers here, as far as getting this approved. Any other comments from the board?
I got one question, Bobby, I'd like to drill down a little deeper. You mentioned affordable housing. So are those 4 lots gonna be one house in each lot? And then the criteria, I may be getting a little ahead of myself or out of my lane here, but would that be based on income, age, or is it just too early for you to know? Because I'm a big proponent of affordable
Well, it
housing.
is a little early. I mean,
Yeah.
we are really jumping into this rather quickly.
Sure.
But like I said, with our backgrounds and with what we're able to do and help, a potential buyer. And with the cost of developing these and doing it ourselves, we're hoping to be able to, set it apart a little bit from what else is out there, which is super,
Say, okay.
Brendan, can I just ask
Yeah.
you a question? Would the stormwater drainage be actually attached to the design of whatever structures and driveways ultimately get put in there? I'm thinking of impervious surface. Like, do they know that at this point, or would that have to happen when they got a building permit? I don't know the answer to that, but I just.
When there's development proposed as part of the subdivision, there's an erosion control plan required.
Okay.
And so in order to do the erosion control plan, we have to have some kind of idea about what's being built. So all of that sort of rolls together.
Right.
How much development are you gonna do? To each one of these sites?
our,
It's unclear. We
Okay.
don't, we don't know yet.
If you did not, then there wouldn't be a need for an original at this level, at this point.
Right.
Later on,
Yeah,
but if you're gonna do any kind of development, then you have to start dealing with that issue. For the driveway, you know, start dealing with that issue. You leave that to the buyer and their issue. When they come back to the board, well, when they go to get their building permit.
Well, that's the thing, like, that's what I don't really understand,
Yeah.
if we went through with a subdivision. And got it divided and sold individual lots that were undeveloped. They could just go get a building permit without the stormwater deal.
So they'd have to address that then.
Yeah.
Then they have to address that at the building permit level.
so, it probably cost you the same amount of money to go have this done for all 4 lots as it would for each individual owner to go and have the same work done. So,
Well,
it's part of
we're just
the,
trying
it's
to
part of
keep
the,
them
va-
Inexpensive. That's
Yeah,
the-
sure, I
that's the whole
understand.
deal.
but this is something to consider as part of your value add for developing the property. Like you're removing that future cost from the buyers of the lots.
Well, no,
I mean, well,
it's gotta be added back in, right? So we gotta get our money back, so you're not removing anything.
Well, you're splitting it 4 ways,
Whatever, but
Mhm.
that's the whole deal, is just trying to keep stuff inexpensive,
Sure. So,
are there any any exemptions to that ever, or?
we have in the past waived it, and we've been having conversations about how that's a mistake. I don't know how the other board members feel, but I'm certainly not in favor of continuing to waive this going forward. We had a subdivision that was across the Warren town line recently, and they have different rules from us, and their rules were actually more restrictive, and they never waive this. They're actually forbidden from waiving it, specifically in their land use ordinance. And it's actually a really good idea because like, if we have this drawing with no topo on it, we have no information about what's going on these lots. And if the development winds up setting a bunch of stormwater onto the an adjacent lot, we have no way of knowing unless the stormwater management plan gets done. You know, it's not a huge thing, especially on a simple site like this. Like, no one's gonna be asking, you know, for detention ponds or anything like that. It's just, you know, calculation gets done showing the, you know, total amount of rainfall in a heavy storm, where it goes and how it gets managed. It's not a complicated ordeal.
I mean, one of the biggest expenses to doing this is to putting a road in. If you're gonna sell a developed piece with a road that goes into some building site. I assume you're gonna have to do that to some degree because the building site has to be. That's what you're selling as a building site, so you have to meet the other criteria, because there's wetlands on some of those properties, isn't it? So you have to figure out a spot that's gonna work, and then, yeah, a road, if you're gonna put the road in, that's a big expense. But that's when you're gonna
Yeah, it's-
become necessary to do a stormwater plan. And when you get to the road, is there a ditch there? You have to cross over a ditch to get there, so.
Yes.
So that's were you planning on doing that?
Of
Putting in a
course,
road?
yes, yeah, that's part of the DOT permit,
Oh, so you're gonna you're planning on actually putting the road in yourselves? and
yes.
selling it as an
driveways.
approved lot. Oh, well, then,
Driveways.
all right, well, then we have to do this.
But if they're sold one every 5 years and no subdivision, they don't have to do that.
Sure.
It's just,
So
that's,
makes,
So,
if you don't agree, I understand.
Oh, I get it.
that's just how it is, just how it is.
okay, so just those two?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't think there's anything that's really much, that's really objectionable here. You know, there's some stuff that you haven't provided. Like, the, archaeological, you need to get a letter from the main,
Named
what's the name of the organization?
Historical Commission,
Yeah,
and the beginning with Habitat Map is also the same.
isn't that what this is?
Those were
Yes, you're right, that is.
Okay.
emailed, yep.
Okay. Um. Yeah, that's everything that's coming to mind, at the moment that you're missing. We need to know if it's in a flood zone, sure that it's not, but FEMA has maps for that need to be included.
That's. That should have been, is it not? I mean, because we have to do that now as real estate agents. We have to include that in every listing, so
I don't think I got it.
I have that.
Okay. Identifying wetlands on the site. I don't know exactly where it is on this map. Where the site is located. It's not really shown on the map. But we need that identified.
And that was not on where the map that was emailed.
There,
No,
when you go through each of the wastewater disposal, there are some references to some of those things. I don't know if they're,
oh, yeah.
if they're not drawn to scale, shall we say, but
Mm.
they're at least references.
Yeah, you know, take a run through Article 12 in the land use ordinance and the whole list of the requirements.
Well, we did, and I'm not sure, who was the lady that I spoke to? Who was it? Okay, so I thought everything we needed was in the packet.
Everything for the preliminary review. Everything for this meeting to come before the planning board.
Okay.
Yep, I think that's about it. Do you have any questions for us about the process?
You're gonna do a site visit and all that, is it a 3-step deal?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep, it's a voluntary site visit. I guess, if anyone's interested in doing that, probably should do it before the next meeting on this. Yeah. Any questions for us other than that? Okay. Yeah,
One quick question if I could. Sorry, Ryan.
It's all right, buddy.
I'm John Blodgett and I'm here as my father borders the property behind it, right behind him. And I'm just asking a couple questions because we've done a family subdivision before 30 years ago. Is there any covenants on this property? You're gonna plan on putting covenants as far as restrictions of any type of housing? And I think it's great. I don't know why anyone hasn't put anything there yet, because I've often said that'd be a good place to check out to put in a couple of lots.
They're gonna be great, good sized lots and
We're not gonna put any covenants in because
it's
it's
not required.
four lots and they all have access to the road, so. I don't even look at it as a subdivision, honestly,
Yeah,
because it's
okay.
4 different driveways.
So I was just asking in case
People can do
someone
whatever
asked.
they- Yeah, no.
Actually, Dad kind of wondered if you guys, I said, I don't believe so.
No,
And that
no,
was a good question. You asked about the individual driveways off 32, so you won't have one road because there's a whole lot of room to do anything else
Exactly.
but that.
exactly.
Okay.
And we're not going deep into the woods. We're gonna go, like I said, we're trying to keep them inexpensive. So we're gonna go 75 to 100 feet off the road. And that's it.
Then it's up to the buyer to place where they want to put the house.
Yep.
I think that was all I had. Good luck to that.
Thank you.
any other citizen comments about this project?
I have a few
Yeah.
concerns. My name is Matt Morris. I'm a property of Butter 922. I think my biggest concerns mostly lie with the traffic. We have a very busy congested area in the last 5 years. And with such a narrow, dense development, I guess my only concern is there a way that maybe to mitigate some of the speeding or anything like that? That's my biggest, I guess, worry.
There's gonna be a couple more vehicle trips per day down 32 as a result of houses being built. The town doesn't have any control over the speed limits over there. Policing could control the speed a little bit. Petitioning the DOT to lower speed limits is largely a fruitless effort. They don't tend to listen to people. They have their ways of setting the speed limits and nobody understands what they are. Yeah,
Not even them.
yeah. I understand your concern. I drive through there all the time and I totally understand what you're talking about. As far as this approval goes, there's not much that we can do to control speeding in your neighborhood, I'm afraid.
Are you worried about speeding coming down or going up? Both ways.
It's both. I mean,
You
people,
got a natural speed bump there with the railroad, so.
right, and I,
That gotta slow down after, when they hit that.
well, that's part of the problem, right? Because they get very close to the train, the railroad going towards Jefferson. And when they hit my area, they immediately speed up. So I'm kind of in the drag area and it's a lot. So,
That's right in the bend here as I'm looking at it. So as you're going down, there's a curve there.
yeah,
So I don't think you can't get a good line of sight there.
not
Well,
for
I-
my property.
Right, I mean, that's my concern. Hopefully it will be addressed, but,
Yeah, the neighbor across the road was much worse as they're on the inner bend. And they
right,
have,
right.
A lot of problems. So, yeah,
You couldn't visualize someone coming speeding
right.
or,
right.
okay. Beat a dead horse.
Any other comments? All right, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right, next up is preliminary application for the Blue Sky Cell Tower.
People.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, Kate. My name is Earl Duvall and I'm here on behalf of Blue Sky Towers. I'm here tonight, or I think I'm here tonight, for a preliminary application review. You scared me, Mr. Chairman, when you said, we're gonna go until 8 o'clock.
Almost always do.
Okay. So what I've filed is, again, what I consider to be the preliminary application, and my hopes tonight were just to briefly go through what it is that I filed for an application, what it is we filed for exhibits, and determine what it is you folks might think we're missing. And then also, as you all know, under one of the sections for photo simulations, I would ask if the board had any recommendations as to where those photo simulations should be taken from. Generally, I would encourage those photo simulations to be noticed so that we would notice the abutters, and perhaps the town would put that notice on the website so folks that might be interested in the facility could see the balloon that we fly. Because as a result of that balloon float, we'll go around and take a number of photos, photo simulations, and then superimpose the tower in there with the proposed installation. So that's one thing that I had hoped to accomplish. If you folks want to get into any of the specifics of the exhibits, I can certainly do that. But once I file the final application and you folks deem it to be final, I would be accompanied by our project engineer and the radio frequency engineer from Verizon Wireless. So if you guys start asking me questions about those, you can't tell those experts that the lawyer was answering any questions at the preliminary application, because I'll be in trouble. So how would you like me to proceed?
Well, I guess
And if-
people have known about this project coming for a few months now, and there's been a lot of rumors floating around town about what's going on and what's being built and why. And I think everybody would benefit from hearing a description of the project and why it's being built, where it's being built.
Okay. So what is being proposed? The site address is at 2734 Friendship Road. And what's being proposed is a 186-foot self-support tower. If we take a look at the cover letter that I sent, Mr. Chairman, if I can just go through, I think it would be helpful because it paints the big picture. Exhibit 1 is the ground lease agreement. Blue Sky Towers has a ground lease, a 99-year ground lease with the landowner. Exhibit 2 is the zoning drawings, and the zoning drawings go into the current conditions, the proposed conditions. There's elevation drawings that show the equipment compound and the elevation of the proposed tower. Exhibit 3 is probably the exhibit that most folks would be interested in. That's the RF report, the first wireless provider that would co-locate on this site, if approved, is Verizon Wireless. That RF report, and we could take a look at that, some tonight if you want, shows the significant gap in coverage and why this site is needed for that. Exhibit 4 is the RF emissions report. Exhibit 5 are the FCC licenses of Verizon Wireless. In order for Verizon Wireless to maintain those licenses, they need to build out and satisfy those licensed areas. And again, if we look at that exhibit 3, which is the RF report, we'll see just how much that there is a gap in coverage. Exhibit 6 is the alternative site analysis. And the site acquisition specialist went out and looked at a number of different sites within the coverage gap. A lot of those, didn't work. It's believed that the site that's been chosen is the best and most feasible site to satisfy the coverage. Exhibit 7 is the FCC tower registration database. That shows that there are no existing structures within 5 miles that they could co-locate on. Exhibit 8, pursuant to the ordinance, is a statement from the applicant, Blue Sky Towers. Exhibit 9 is the removal bond estimate, which is in the event that the tower would need to come down. Exhibit 10 would be the determination of no hazard to air navigation. I think, from my perspective, the only thing that would be missing from the application would be the photo simulations. And again, we would aim to understand from you folks where we would take those, photos from, or, you could leave it up to us and our expert to, make that determination. Again, I would highly recommend, if all these folks are here with some sort of interest to the facility, that we would, want to notice that with you folks.
Question.
Yes,
The first thing it said, you need a request for a waiver. Could you explain that? It says describe the nature of the waiver requested. I thought we weren't giving out waivers. I mean, it's just, it clearly violates it. But what is it that you're exactly asking for and why?
so there's a requirement, and my waiver request is here someplace. There's a requirement in the ordinance that says that communication facilities need to be located within 300 yards of Route 1.
Yeah.
If you take a look at the application materials that I filed originally, I had requested a dimensional variance because we're certainly well outside that 300 yards. In working with Kate, she said that the process would be that I would first ask you folks for the waiver because we're outside of that. And if you did not grant that waiver, and I believe that under section 3.5 that you have the power to grant that waiver. So if you didn't grant that waiver, then I think the recommendation would be that my first visit would be with the zoning board asking for a variance.
I think you mean the Board of Appeals. Is that right, Kate?
Yeah.
Yep, Board of Appeals.
Can somebody tell me why that 300 feet, 300 yards rule was put in the first place? What was the spirit of the intent of that?
I don't think that any of us on the board here were present when that was written, most likely.
And if you-
That's probably going back 20+ years to when the first version of the land use ordinance was written. Basically, the way our rules are set up in town, the way things are zoned, we try to push all commercial development into that. And the situation here is that we've got 2 cell phone towers in that zone. And then the next nearest cell phone tower is at the fire station in Friendship. And adding another tower within the 300 feet, 300 yards of Route 1 doesn't accomplish the goals of expanding and improving the coverage down into the southern part of it. So I imagine that, no matter how tall you made a tower within 50 yards of Route 1, you have to provide coverage down there.
So, and that was kind of, my question was kind of rhetorical, so it seems to me that the decision on the variance comes down to, do you, without any of the rest of the conversation, do you want to hang on to something that is probably written when cell phone towers were new? And we didn't really know that we were going to become so dependent versus having coverage down the peninsula, because at least, there certainly are blind spots. So I guess that's really the decision.
Right. And my understanding is that if we decline to grant this waiver and the Board of Appeals does as well, that the FCC will allow the developer to supersede our town ordinance anyway.
If I was to keep my legal hat on, that would be correct.
Right.
Yes. And I think that analysis is absolutely correct when the ordinance and that section in the ordinance predates the last 30 years. 9X Mobile, now Verizon Wireless, called my office out of the yellow pages in 1994. I've been here for them all those years. When we first started going into local jurisdictions, there were no ordinances for new structures,
Right.
towers. So I think that if you look at Exhibit 3, that is the document, and we would certainly, at the time of, when application is filed, deemed complete, public notice is given, I would have with me someone from C Squared Systems who would be the RF engineer who would explain this exhibit in great detail. But so long as you folks don't get me in big trouble, if we're looking at, page. Well, it's attachment B, either page 6, which lists all the different tower sites that were utilized to propagate coverage. And there's, I don't know, more than a dozen sites on here. And then on Exhibit B, you can see this, sorry, everybody, see this map that depicts the coverage that's provided here. The proposed site is here. The yellow and the green would represent areas that Verizon Wireless provides reliable wireless service. Everything in here that's white is no service. And I shouldn't say no, it's not service that's reliable to the network. And this site fills what they would call a significant gap in coverage. And then if you can look around the perimeter of all this white area to those other sites that are referenced here, those sites now, because of the growth, are overburdened and there are capacity issues in those sites. And if you look, further into the package, Exhibit F, it shows if the proposed site is live, the coverage, and then the coverage that's also obtained from the existing sites around the perimeter. Certainly from the RF analysis that's done, there is a significant gap in coverage, in this area. And it's a very, limited area in which, they could, if this is just a large radius and this is the smaller search ring, and that's where the proposed site is, here. So.
That's the elevation drawing, correct?
Oh, that's correct. Yes. Yeah.
So you're trying to get onto the high ground and the ridge on a.
Yes, and even on our landlord, on Mr. Williams' property, you know, the engineers have cited it at the location, which will keep that structure, you know, below I think there's a requirement of 195 feet in the ordinance, and if we were to go over 200, then it would have to be required to be lit under FAA. So there's been a lot of, you know, balance to get the correct location and, you know, keep it from air navigation hazard, keep it from not being lit.
I think that's a great goal. I'm sure that would, certainly be salt in the wound for the people who are objecting to it being built at all.
How do you determine sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, how do you determine what's the sort of cost benefit analysis when it's done as to how much coverage you need to get in order to make the project financially feasible? I mean, so let's say, you know, you're at 186. I looked up online last week, some of the other projects you guys have done up and down the coast of Maine, and many of them are significantly shorter, like 125 feet. And, you know, I think one of the objections may be that this is your height, because it's gonna be seen from just about everything. So many more locations at that height. And I'm wondering if you lower it, that'll lower the height, you'll probably undoubtedly reduce the coverage. And so at what point, at what height, what's the lowest height you can make it, and get the amount of coverage you need to make it a feasible project? I guess that's my question.
Okay, so I think that's a fantastic question. That's not a question that I can answer as counsel, but I will ask the RF engineer before we finalize the application, submit and come back, if he was to run that at various heights, because then we could demonstrate or show you folks and these folks, you know, what that coverage would be. And, you know, they're trying to satisfy their FCC licenses within that area. So, you know, they need to be a certain height to satisfy that coverage area, that gap in coverage. At the same time, we should all give consideration to co-location. The structure, you know, even, you know, per the ordinance, we need to make this so that other wireless providers, AT&T, T-Mobile, and maybe others someday, you know, would be able to co-locate on that structure and also, you know, provide service as well. So.
Quick question, and you may not be able to answer it, but I would like an answer, because being in healthcare for 38 years, is there any known deleterious health effects from towers of that nature to anybody that you know of, or any studies?
Yes, so
Anything of that nature, because that would be something I would really, and maybe a lot of people would like to know.
So exhibit 4 to the app, I think it's exhibit 4, is the calculated RF emissions report. And that report details what the emission standards are, and also sets forth at what, you know, percentage of that allowable permissible exposure is. And it's like we're 3% of whatever that number is, so it's very minimal. In fact, this issue has been litigated again and again and again, and so long as the wireless providers are providing the report that says we're within the permissible emissions, then a board cannot make a determination based upon perceived.
But to be clear, there is some radiation emanating from that, even though it's minuscule.
Correct. Yep, there is. And I've heard the RF engineers say that, your handheld device and many household products emit more emissions than what, those towers would at 180, I think it's 183-foot center line on the tower.
Okay.
So clearly, and I think I understood you to say that they're gonna do more pictures so you can kind of get a sense of what the tower will look like, you know, in the neighborhood or whatever, but looking at the maps, and I'm not super familiar with the lot that this is on personally, I haven't driven around there, but it looks like it's set back quite a bit, and so my question is, how big is it when you get lower part of this, you know, the fencing and all that from the road or from the neighbors?
So it's, my intent was to get over there to drive the site myself, so I've only looked at it, you know, online. We have requested a waiver from the landscaping requirement because there are some, you know, trees and vegetation in there. There would be a 6-foot, as required by the ordinance, a 6-foot chain link fence with 3 strands of barbed wire, you know, along the top. I think when we do those photo sims, you know, from various locations, we will be able to see that. And, you know, I think on exhibit 2 is the drawings. Sheet number A1 is the overall site plan, which shows just how far the site is, you know, set back.
Yeah, so that was my question. I mean, not knowing exactly what it is up on the ground out there, because I haven't been out there either. It looks like potentially at least the bottom part of the structure is
Screened.
screened. It's really the issue will be, probably we'll hear soon, I'm sure. The issue is more the tower itself and the height of the tower. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Are these plans available to the public?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Anyone can come in and see, get a copy of these and take a look at them.
I don't know if they'll provide a hard copy, but they're.
Did you
all
post
the
those
materials are
online?
Available on the town website.
They're on the website, and if, we just charge for a copying fee. So it's 10 cents per page. We'll provide a hard copy, and people can sit in the office and look at the copy.
But those
And
simulated
if-
photos you're talking about will really answer a lot of questions for people. So-
Oh, absolutely. And Mr. Chairman, if I may, you know, you can certainly offer to anyone here in the public that they could reach out to me via email. And if there's anything specific in the application that they wanted emailed, I'm happy to email that out.
Okay.
So,
I'd like to know
I-
why the tower is located so close to Route 220. This is a long skinny lot, like most of the lots in South Waldeboro to going down 220. I realize that, you know, it limits because the setbacks for the tower are required to be 105% how tall the tower is, so if it falls over, it doesn't fall onto the neighbor's property. So with these long skinny lots, most of them are too narrow in this part of town to build this on. But this is a long skinny lot, it goes back hundreds more feet. Why located at the cost of using construction costs?
oh, so that's an excellent question and one that I asked as well. And topography, the more you go back, it dips down, which would require the structure to be taller, potentially putting us over
Over the 200 feet.
over the 200 feet. There might be a little bit of flexibility in there. And I was told if that question was asked, then we could dig into that with more detail. So thank you for asking.
Sure thing. Regarding the waiver about the landscaping, the purpose of having the landscaping requirement in there is so that all this vegetation that's would hide this project is required to be, it's required to remain. So I'm disinclined to offer that waiver. If you want to include existing plants on the landscaping plan and explain how that, you know, which plants are constituting that screening, that's fine, but there's nothing stopping the landowner from going in and clear cutting the entire property and exposing your project to view. Right, so that's the purpose of that. Yeah, I don't know how other people on the board feel about the landscaping waiver request.
Is
but
that, is
that's-
that,
I think it would be helpful. I'm sorry. to
I
interrupt.
just want to point out, on page 16, it says 3.5.3.2.5 will not unnecessarily affect natural environment. You know, what does that mean? I mean, what is that essentially, what safeguards do you have? It says here, you will not unnecessarily affect the natural environment. So does that mean you're gonna work around what Brandon was saying?
Well, my suggestion would be is that when we go out to do photo sims, we would maybe take photos of where the proposed 75 by 75 leased area is, see what the vegetation is there, see, and my guess is that the project engineer who's been on site could answer these questions. I'm here to preliminarily to make sure it's complete, but
Right.
we could take photos to see what's there, what exists, how much it is that we need to remove in order to construct the tower and for the leased area. Because I'm just not sure of that answer, but
Yeah. Sarah, would you like to start?
One general question.
Sarah, would you give your name, please?
From the proposed tower. I just want to suggest or make sure, get some assurance that the planning board will law on the property for you folks and us, so that we can actually see in real time what's going to be happening there, because it's really hard to read black and white or maps and imagine what it looks like on the site.
I think that's a great idea, yeah. Is that something that can be accommodated?
I mean, if you folks want to do a site walk and schedule that, yes, maybe we want to do that on the day of the balloon float.
Yeah, it would be good to have some photos. I think that would make it efficient.
Right. I mean, we would need to schedule, a few weeks out with our vendor. And I could work with Kate and you folks to say,
Sure.
is this date or that date good? It'd be
Okay.
2 weeks. It'd be helpful for me to know tonight if, even if we were to you folks were to take a look at this map and said, we at least want to see photo sims from here, 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 and here, or we don't have to do that tonight. You folks can look at it and Kate could send me an email and say, make sure we're from here. Or if there's anyone's in the audience that says, I'd really like to have something from my property. If it's private property, the vendor's gonna want a waiver, to be signed to, enter onto private property and take photos, but we can coordinate all that.
Okay. Do the neighbors understand what we're talking about here? There's a requirement to do these renderings so that you can see what it's gonna look like from various different perspectives, and it's a requirement. We just have to provide the locations from which these photo mock-ups are going to be done.
So if,
And it's required.
yeah, so if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
So what the vendor will do is we'll go out to the site. They'll tether a balloon to the 186 feet, probably a 6-foot red balloon. Depending on the day, they might put another one that's maybe 30 feet below, just as a reference. That balloon, they'll fly it for an hour or so. They'll go around to all the different locations, take a photo to see that balloon, and then they'll take this tower using all sorts of, computer programming, whatnot, and they will superimpose this tower into where that balloon is, and we'll show the, you know, the proposed equipment, which is detailed in the plans, you know, on that tower. So you'll get to see the balloon and, you know, a photo simulation rendering of what it will look like, and it's very accurate.
I would like to know in advance, if possible, the question I asked earlier, is this has to be this way or nothing? Or is there flexibility in terms of the height? In terms of the cost of it and the height and how far that tower will emit,
Right.
you know, so, or is it just like it has to be this or it's not gonna be anything at all? I mean, I'm curious as to whether.
So I believe the materials that have been submitted from the RF engineer say that this is the minimum height to achieve their objectives. But as I had shared, I will get the RF engineer to propagate at some lower heights, because then we will be able to visually see the footprint of that coverage objective, you know, shrink. So-
Because at some point, if everybody can see it, and it's, as you pointed out, it's maybe 30 feet lower, but it doesn't serve its purpose, then what's the point of having to look at it and have it not work?
Well, it doesn't serve the purpose for
So,
the
but-
carrier and then for any co-locators.
Right, exactly. But it's a good question. to
Oh,
answer, Right?
Absolutely, yes.
Sarah?
Did you say that the balloon would be only up for an hour?
That's generally what we do, is fly it for an hour.
Julie, our town manager, assured us that it would be up for 18 hours. And we need to be able to see that balloon, and we all work and are in and out of our houses and neighborhoods. So we really need to have that balloon up for at least 18 hours, and it needs to be lit.
It's not gonna be up for 18 hours, but I'll see what I can do. We usually schedule a window, and that's why we do the notice, which
So
isn't
the
required.
balloon being up for an hour is really for you, not for us.
No, I'm providing notice for you folks so that you know that the balloon is there.
To be able to see the balloon, we need to be able to see this balloon.
And you will see the balloon in the photo simulations.
in 1 hour. Am I understanding this right?
You are, yes.
I don't get it. Can everybody here, do you think you can be available for that 1 hour to see the balloon?
I'm not sure which day this will be, but it's usually in the morning. They'll set up and they'll say they'll fly the balloon, you know, from 8 to 9 or 8 to 10, depending on wind or how long it takes them to, you know, to go around.
It needs to be longer. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a pain, but it needs to be 18 hours.
I'll certainly, it's not gonna be 18 hours.
I have a question, I'm Susan Price. Is this gonna be, weekdays, weekends? Do you know at this point?
I don't know. I will coordinate that with the board and with Kate and the vendor.
Would it be possible to fly more than once and try to, so that people would have an option if they could make it one day, they could make it another? Meet for an hour or two, I mean, it doesn't seem, 18 hours doesn't seem unreasonable, but flying. it
I think
for
if we
a couple
get-
hours, we get twice.
I think if we,
an option.
give enough notice and can fly it for a couple of hours, then
We have other lives. We can't all be available to look at the balloon from 4 to 5 on whatever day. This is a 192-foot tower in our neighborhood. We need to know how tall it's gonna be, and we need to be able to imagine.
in all fairness, that's why we do the photos and submit the photos and the photo simulations. I'm not even sure that there's a requirement that in the ordinance that this needs to be noticed.
Search of a.
Can we take a look at that? I'm sorry.
A happy compromise. I thought you said that there could be a fairly extensive list of positions from which you photograph, so folks who are butters and neighbors are gonna have to look at this, want to see what it looks like from their front yard or their backyard. That could be one of the places you do a photo set from, so you could know exactly what it would look like.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons that I'm here tonight. If we look at 10.2 2.8, 3.6. Photo simulations of the proposed facility taken from perspectives determined by the planning board or their designee during the pre-application review. Each photo must be labeled with the line of sight, elevation, and with the date taken and printed on the photograph. The photographs must show the color of the facility and method of screening. I'm here offering that we don't generally do this, but we understand that folks don't always just want to see the picture and the simulation. So we are willing to work with you folks to, to notice it. So that, and I think if we can work together and notice it and do a site visit, as long as the landlord is, everyone is good with this, we could try to do that on the same day.
If anyone wants one of these renderings done from their location or from a location near their home, give us your addresses. I'll set my notebook up here on the table after the meeting, write down your address and your name, and I guess contact info, phone number, or email or something.
Yep.
So that we can get in touch with you and we'll have a rendering done from your property. We don't have.
We will have
we
we
don't
will
have-
need a waiver signed if it's from private property.
Okay, no problem. We don't have a way to enforce this balloon float. It's not even mentioned in our land use ordinance. It's just in the bar. It's as Earl read it about the photo simulations. So that's what we can do. Sarah? Yep.
Question. Will the balloon be lit?
No.
And, when you take photographs, you're taking a photograph of the balloon from different angles, right?
Correct.
How many photographs can you take in an hour? I mean, is it just one person taking the photographs, or is this like?
Usually a photo simulation package has anywhere from, 10 to 16, and I'm saying that on average, different locations, they drive around and, take photos. So they'll be. And the vendor knows, and we know that we need to take those photos from the places that you can see the balloon,
Right.
where you're gonna see the tower.
And I believe I heard you say that when you look at the photographs, they're not just gonna be a picture of the balloon from a point. You're gonna have a simulated tower, so you get a real visual.
You'll have both. Like the first sheet will be the balloon, turn the page, and the second one will be the actual proposed structure.
Is it all right if I stay here? Can you hear me okay?
Sure.
My name is Sally Williams. I'm a butter and I'm here with my son, Christopher Chase. I am probably gonna be the loudest because I am the closest to that tower. It is 352 feet from the corner of my house to that site. Nowhere is anything related to our home or our well, which is also close to the easement, mentioned anywhere in this. I understand there's now going to be imaging done that's gonna help with some of this. But I am very concerned about the waiver requested for all mitigation. Because that will be completely visible, including the facility from the windows in my home, first and second floor, my deck, and my whole yard. Never mind the whole height of the tower. The easement
Is
road,
this your,
it's a little teeny tiny dot.
is that your,
Let me see.
I just want to make sure.
Yes, that is my home right there. And the measurement was done with Onyx, so I didn't like make up some number. 352 is using the hunting app Onyx to pinpoint from the coordinates of the tower to our home. It is only 66 feet from my house to the property line. And it is only how many feet from the well to the property line?
And it's 23 feet from the well to the property line.
The easement road is not that far from the property line. There is mention in that application of drilling for telephone utility poles, underground utility, Never mind, I don't know if the easement road has to be added to, amended, strengthened for heavy equipment that's coming in. So I am worried about impacts to my well, which is more than 30 years old. It's functioning fine now. I don't wish for that to change. I am worried about the noise. There is mention in there of a generator that could run at any time. I understand it needs to test, and I'm fine with that. But the hours are excessive. From 7 a.m. till 10 p.m., that generator could run to do its weekly test. It also says that maintenance can be done from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Maintenance is fine. That's great. And emergencies don't count. I'm not even thinking of that. But why are they doing repairs at 9 or 10 o'clock at night? Because they're going to be driving right down my property line, past my living room to get down to that facility. So for me, there needs to be all kinds of things that are looked at as far as mitigation and impact to the neighborhood, never mind the visibility. And not wanting to put anything up, yet I'm gonna be able to see that whole yard from my backyard. And I understand that property values are not a consideration. I've looked at the regulations in the federal laws, but market value is a consideration. And resale value will be impacted if this is not properly mitigated from my house and perhaps other people's homes. I don't even know how much other people will be able to see from their property, but I know it's going to be significant. The other thing is there are a lot of discrepancies in this application because at one point the tower is listed as 186 feet. Two other places it's listed at 185. The height of the tower matters because there are setbacks from my property line that have to be managed. The location of the height of the panels varies. The number of panels installed varies. And initially, Verizon apparently is going to approve 9, but as was mentioned, there's co-location. There's going to be other panels over time added to this. How does that impact anything? How does that impact maintenance, traffic on the road, noise? More data needs to be provided. That doesn't even include emergency services. I understand they're separate. We need that. I get that. I'm not complaining about that. But when people collate, other providers co-locate on there, what is that going to do to the maintenance schedule? The maintenance schedule in this application is inconsistent. In one place, it says it will be 1 time per month. In another place, it says it will be 1 to 2 times per month. I want true, accurate data. It says in the FAA report that no lights are required. That's fine because of the height. However, it does state that voluntarily they can add lights. Is that something that's going to happen? I want to know because it's light pollution, because I'm going to see it for sure, as will many other people. There is a sensor light. They say there's no lighting in one place in the application, but somewhere else it lists there's going to be a sensor light. It's supposed to be aimed down, but I don't know. What is that going to do? So there are lots of things that I don't feel have been fully addressed, and I would like more answers. I totally understand. We can't stop this. Federal regulation will overrule, and it's going to happen. But I quote what they say in the last paragraph of the application. The applicant is committed to working with the local communities in siting and construction of the Centenna facilities. Because the applicant's desire to be a good neighbor and establish long-term relationships, the applicant makes every effort to identify potential community concerns and incorporate all appropriate mitigation measures in the site selection process. I'm asking the board to be very, very careful in making sure that everything is managed for mitigating for the neighbors. And I would ask the applicant represented here today, there's one chance to make a good impression, and this is it. What are you going to do with it? Thank you.
I was very surprised to learn that, and I haven't found it in the land use ordinance yet, but I saw it in the documents here that there seems to be no limit on the decibel level for this generator at the property lines, which I find really strange. It's our fault as a town that this is part of the text in here. And I'm looking through 10.28, but I don't see it in here. I'm assuming this is in with the generator section wherever that's located, and I'll find it eventually, but I haven't found it yet. I'd really appreciate it, and I'm sure that Sally would as well, if the generator that's provided for this facility is set to exercise in the afternoon as they normally are. I mean, usually it's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday when the generators get exercised once a month. And it would be great if the silencer on this generator actually met our noise requirements. There's no reason why the generator needs to be loud in order to do its job. It's not going to be a huge generator, I'm sure. Silencers are an additional expense, but as Sally noted, your client's intent here is to be a good neighbor. Love to see that happen.
I understand that, but I think there's some confusion. I mean, the generator is only going to be tested. Perhaps once a week or once every other week for about 30 minutes. And we do that remotely, and we can set that time for any time that you folks or the neighbors want that to be set for, to test it. And the only time that generator is going to be running is when everyone wants it to be running, and that's in the event of an emergency. Just like probably many other folks here, their generators are going to be running, and those generators, I'm certain, are more, make more noise than what's going to be proposed here.
Right.
So
So
can
you include an equipment cut sheet that tells us what the decibel output of that is and what it's going to be at the property line?
Yes, yep. It is referenced, not the specifics as to what you're looking for, but the 50 kW generator is set forth on sheet CA1. But I can get a cut sheet. Yes. Yep. Sheet CA1.
The noise ordinance is 10.28.4.11.
That's interesting. So you're quoting, yeah, there's no information here. It's just a picture of the generator.
Right here.
Yeah, the picture doesn't tell me how.
Right, no, agreed.
On page 10, you're quoting 10.28.4.11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says are exempt from the noise standards in Article 7, General Performance Standards, subsection 7.6.
Yeah.
And again, that's for testing, and that's for, it says
That's for any
anytime
type of
during
power
failure,
Right.
right?
But a power failure is not the problem. Obviously, it needs to run at that point. I'm more concerned that someone, without some kind of agreement, someone somewhere else will just decide it's convenient for me. We're going to set it to run at 7 a.m. or at 10 p.m. because that's what's written in your application, that it can be done in those hours.
So I think what we'll do is under condition of approval, we'll set the time for the generator.
I just mirrored the language in
I
there.
understand, and we're gonna change that language after your approval, because there's no reason why the generator couldn't meet the sound emission levels in 7.6. Who's up next? Yes.
Hi. My name is Amy Ford. I have some thoughts to share. Some of it circles us back to earlier. Things, so I'm not missing anything. I think where Margo started us off regarding why the land use first comment based on our town's land use ordinance. Is the proposed construction even allowed? The town created its land use ordinance clearly limiting the placement of cell towers to the corridor and intentionally not permitting them access. To wisely protect the aesthetic and rural nature of the town at all levels. Downtown consists of a business district distinct from the village,
and the remaining community beautifully blends rural, residential, and farming. A 192-foot cell tower on Friendship Road would be at odds with the zoning and planning parameters in place. And Congress has not retracted from local authorities its zoning power. Is there a standard definition for gap in service that is being followed? A proven gap in service is actual and not just weak signals, and significant, not trivial. What are the specific locations or properties with an actual and significant gap in service, i.e. without cell access? Should there be locations or properties with an actual and significant gap in service, would the proposed cell tower solve access issues for all affected? There can be gaps in cell service for reasons unrelated to the presence of a cell tower, outdated devices, software issues, physical obstructions, inclement weather, etc. Not to mention that the tower itself doesn't solve any gaps. It depends on which of the carriers the tower houses. Does the proposed cell tower for addressing an actual and significant gap in service use the least intrusive means? Again, is there a standard definition for least intrusive that is being followed? Easiest access to a location is not a sufficient definition of least intrusive. How extensively did the applicant investigate alternative sites or technologies? Higher elevations on the other side of Madomic River, only as far down the peninsula as 2951 Friendship Road, utilization of cell service extenders. What would the applicant have done if the property owner lived the only feasible location and the 6 others with property not more advantageous than the proposed site had said no to the cell tower on their land? Or what then would the town have done to address a gap in service? Albeit hypothetical, it makes the point that a cell tower need not be the only solution. More options can be considered. Given the mandate of the Maine Department of Inland Fish and Wildlife and documented biological effects of non-thermal RF on sensitive topics, affects bats and birds, etc. Has the applicant provided an independent environmental study specifically analyzing the potential for non-thermal RF interference with local protected or migratory species? And if not, why should the board proceed without this information? The proposed location for this 19-story cell tower lies in a rural zone immediately adjacent to an area zoned residential, consisting of country homes, farms, gardens, and long scenic vistas that include conservation land. A structure of the proposed height and industrial appearance would dramatically alter not only the character of the visual aesthetics of the neighborhood, but it would also impact the natural environment. The 3-part peer-reviewed series published in Reviews on Environmental Health analyzed more than 1,200 studies and found measurable biological effects among birds, insects, and small mammals from non-ionizing radio frequency emissions. Documented impacts include disruption of migration, reproduction, orientation, and overall survivorship. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service provides clear guidance around tower construction. Towers, this is a quote, should not be sited in or near wetlands or other known bird concentration areas or in known migratory bird movement routes, daily movement flyways, areas of breeding concentration, and habitat of threatened or endangered species, key habitats for birds of conservation concern, end quote. According to the applicant's site analysis, multiple properties were rejected because of wetlands. The proposed location includes a small pond, and the Goose River that borders the proposed site flows into the tidal Madomic River, which in turn flows into Muscongas Bay, forming a habitat corridor that serves as a key segment to the Atlantic Flyway. Further, the Goose River is identified as a hotspot by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology's eBird database. Approximately 150 bird species have been observed in this immediate area, underscoring its ecological importance and diversity. To note, we filed a request for environmental review, and at the time of this writing had not heard of its status. Attempts to reach someone in DC have so far failed due to the government shutdown. What is the basis of the claim that the proposed tower, quote, will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and will not unreasonably detrimentally affect the use or market value of abutting properties? The proposed tower will produce an undesirable change and negatively affect the use of even non-abutting properties. Besides my mom and I residing here and stewarding the land, family frequently visits. The next generation has only ever known Waldoboro as home to me and my mom, called Marmy by her grandchildren. Waldoboro has become a sanctuary, a refuge from the fast pace and noise of the outside world. Here, my family can slow down, reconnect with nature, and remember what truly matters. Marmy's forecastle, as we call it, is the place the next generation has always envisioned there. The news of a potential cell tower less than a half mile from Marmy's home has shaken that vision. The idea of a towering industrial structure rising above this quiet, natural area feels deeply at odds with what makes Waldoboro special. This isn't about resisting progress. It's about preserving character, beauty, and well-being. There are other ways to expand connectivity without sacrificing the serenity and sense of safety that residents and visitors alike find here. Once a tower goes up, it cannot simply be undone. Its impact, visual, environmental, and emotional, will ripple through the generations. This is all my family. The same generations that ask that you reconsider this proposal with both the short-term needs and the long-term consequences in mind. Waldoboro's charm lies in its simplicity and its deep connection to nature. A cell tower would fundamentally alter that balance and diminish what makes this place a refuge for many. Next would be my request to respectfully ask the planning board to request of the applicant photo simulations for any of the addresses of those interested in this information, and a balloon test to provide advance notice of the dates and hours so that we may alert our neighbors. Going on. Does the structural analysis report guarantee the tower can structurally handle the maximum potential RF load, including the fourth commercial tenant, plus all local or county communications equipment? Does the RF study model this maximum physical load, or just the minimum for carriers? And if not, what is the cumulative and combined exposure? Given that the RF study was prepared by the applicant's contractor, please provide the name, licensing number, and professional engineering seal of the individual who performed the cumulative RF analysis. Is the town authorized to hire an independent peer review RF engineer at the applicant's expense to verify the maximum permissible exposure calculation accuracy? Does the RF study account for the pulsing nature of radio waves, i.e. peaks, maximum, and average? Request, the FCC standards predate current 5G technologies like massive MIMO and beamforming. Please provide the documentation on how the modeling specifically accounts for the complex multi-beam nature of current 5G antennas to ensure that the aggregate energy density remains compliant even in the rapidly switching main beam of the antennas. Do we know what it means that the tenant would have the right to modify the frequencies over which the communication facility operates? Given that right to modify the frequencies, should the applicant be expected to provide periodic RF studies, since there is no other oversight? Would the board be interested in a summary of why FCC emission standards are concerning? An October 2, 2025 article was released from the International Commission on the Biological Effects of Electromagnetic Fields. That's ICBE-EMF. On its new scientific publication, which challenges who commissioned reviews on wireless radio frequency radiation safety. Quote, Dr. John Frank, a physician and an epidemiologist at the University of Edinburgh, Professor Emeritus, University of Toronto, and the ICBE-EMF chairperson stated, we at ICBE-EMF find, based on our substantial collective multidisciplinary expertise in this field, that the WHO Commission systematic reviews are simply inadequate to conclude that wireless radiation is safe, or that the ICN-IRP/FCC limits are reliable. Presenting these flawed reviews as evidence of safety for ICN-IRP and the FCC's current exposure limits would be misleading the public. In 2021, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit issued a ruling for the FCC to update its 1996 regulations regarding allowable radio frequency radiation exposures from wireless technologies. The FCC has yet to fully comply with this mandate. Why? Is the public aware of how the safety standards were determined? And more importantly, why they are unacceptable? The guidelines were set in the 1990s, before there were wireless networks. The guidelines were based solely on preventing thermal effects, dismissing the documented biological effects from wireless radiation exposure below heating levels. The guidelines only consider 6 to 30 minutes of exposure, a far cry from the long-term exposure from 24/7 proximity. The guidelines only account for exposure from one device at a time, not multiple sources. The guidelines were based on an adult male body's absorption of radiation, not women's and children's smaller bodies and brains. Interesting to note, the FCC radio frequency exposure guidelines are less protective than those of other countries. Again, why? It is unclear whether there would be warning lights. The public noticed that there would be, but the application indicates no lighting. I think that's figured out, no lighting. What is the noise level of the backup generator? What does the selling, assigning, or transferring of the lease by the tenant leave the town exposed to? What does the waiver of liability for damage between the tenant and landlord leave the town exposed to? Is the board equipped to review the studies that have been submitted? As explained by Attorney Theodore Small of Skelton, Tainter, and Abbott in an article, the TCA presumptively gives municipalities 150 days, unless the parties agree to an extension, to reach a final decision on an application to construct a cell tower. Claiming that a denial of an application is effective prohibition seems like a form of reinterpreting the FCC, especially since towns have done just that. For example, Hamilton Township, Ohio, reported February 18th, 2025. Section 254761D of the TCA of 1996 states, the definition of the services that are supported by federal universal service support mechanisms shall consider the extent to which the telecommunications services are consistent with public interest, convenience, and necessity. Public interest. People have expressed concerns over the proposed tower. Convenience. Convenience how, considering the extent of the income. Necessity. If a connectivity issue needs to be addressed, it also needs to be by the least intrusive means. For now, I end in agreement with these sentiments, again shared by my family. Thank you for taking the time to listen and considering the needs of those who love Waldoboro, not just for what it offers today, but for what we hope will remain for years to come.
Yeah. Other comments?
I have a quick question.
Yeah,
For
please.
space, is there any financial advantage for the town to have this power in terms of taxes or usage fees, or does anything come back to the people of Waldoboro?
Do you have anything to say about that?
Pursuant to the ordinance, we would allow public safety from the town to co-locate on the facility at no charge. And then presumably, there will be some tax benefit to the town,
Right.
both in real estate and personal property.
Could you explain what the tax benefit would be?
Tax revenue. An increase in the property because of the tower. I'm not familiar with what the current, tax assessment is or anything, but
Sorry, I didn't understand.
No, we can't answer your question. We don't know what the landowner's taxes are or what the revised assessment will be.
That's what I was wondering. Do you mean it would increase the value of the current owner's property? Is that what you meant?
I believe that would be true.
Yeah, in all likelihood, the assessed taxes would be higher than they are now. And if I
The
remember
local
correctly, the
jurisdiction would
lease,
probably tax the 75 by 75 leased area.
right,
But that would be your company would pay that.
Correct.
it's not a significant amount of tax revenue for the town.
Is this tower, I'm an electronics, I'm ignorant about stuff, but so this tower, is this the tower where you put those little modules? I mean, so will people keep adding or companies add these actual repeaters so you get more coverage, or how does that work?
Not for the wireless carriers. The wireless carriers, if you take a look at the set of plans here, let me pull that out for you. Looking at sheet A2
Okay,
and the proposed self-support tower. Verizon Wireless would have their panel antennas here, and then there'd be a spot for 3 other carriers to co-locate on that facility. So they all operate on different frequencies and use their own proprietary antennas and equipment. And you might be thinking of like a two-way communications folks that can use one repeater using one omnidirectional antenna for a number of different folks. But that's not the technology that is deployed here.
Is that 3 others, including the town emergency services or beyond the town emergency services?
So Verizon, 3 other, and then the town in addition, so.
I think it'd be reasonable to have what the report was, which is really well documented. Research. Report submitted to the company as to when the RF engineer comes. And then there's questions because clearly we don't have the answers to those things. And they hopefully will, because I think a lot of them are really legitimate concerns and need to be addressed. So can that happen? Can that,
So,
that whole report?
So I'm here tonight for a preliminary, review of this, and we're actually more presenting the, the application, but I can share with the board that so long as the carriers can demonstrate they're complying with the FCC requirements for radio frequency emissions, the board is prohibited from denying the application. We will have the radio frequency engineer here. We have submitted the radio frequency emissions report, which clearly demonstrates that we're within those guidelines. Each and every time that a new carrier is to co-locate on that, they will look at the RF exposure, based upon the second, third, and fourth carrier. And I think that I could probably, because we have RF engineer would have enough knowledge as to the other carriers and what their emissions would be, that we could do a cumulative report to show that. But
As living
What's the
right
point
under
of coming
that
here? If they can be, we can be overridden by it. Or the FCC, I mean.
Well, it still has to get a
it's
bill.
deemed, yeah, there's a lot of information out there. Again, in order for Verizon Wireless and the other providers to maintain their licenses, they need to comply with existing federal law. And they do comply with existing federal law, and as so long as they do, the board is prohibited from denying.
It's,
Just to clarify though, the board, are you saying the board's prohibited from denying for the reason of
Correct,
LCC,
that's correct.
but the board could deny
Correct,
for, because you're in the middle of a
Ab-
wetland, or there are other
absolutely,
reasons.
yes,
It's
thank you.
just that one point.
My apology if I, correct.
to Amy's point, it's pretty common for our government technological regulations to be 30 years behind the times. I built a building one time where we were being governed by rules from the 1960s about fiber optic communications. Fiber optic communications didn't even exist. And I imagine that's kind of similar to what we have here, considering that these regulations are 30 years old, and the technology that's about to be mounted here on this tower wasn't even conceived of when the regulations were created.
And we're also we're a First Circuit district, so there is, again, to the point of, like, belief in yourself, and being hard to convince us that the location of this tower is considered the least intrusive. So while there may be the feeling of some hand tying in terms of what we're allowed to do, it's not just across the board that there isn't some ground that we have to stand on for how this plays out. It isn't just a done deal.
At the same time, I would encourage the board, we have submitted a alternative site analysis where several other sites were looked at. And if this board or anyone in the community has any specific site that you would like us to look at, we will certainly look at that.
I have a suggestion on that one. There's a place in another county, in another town, not far from here, not far from our little village. That is a dump. And it's been colored over. And there's no way that other people can live there now because of this surface. It would be in my view, but it would be farther away from
If you could provide that information to the board or to Kate, then
Well,
I
I'm
could certainly.
providing it to you because the size.
Okay, what's the address?
On Colonel Stairs Road, across from the quarry.
If you can get the specific information, share it with me directly or to the board.
It's not in this town. It's in another.
That's fine.
It's fine.
It's very close to where your proposed place is in distance, but it wouldn't affect anybody. You
If
or
you can-
anything.
Please send the information to the town planner so that we can pass it on to the developer. Send it to Kate.
Yeah, if you send an email with just that description you have or ways that I can find it, then I can work with Friendship to look up the map and lot for them.
Right, pushing. It's.
And you folks, I need to remember, I'm here tonight as a preliminary application review to understand from the board whether it is we're missing any information, not anticipating there to be a significant amount of residents here to comment on this
I'm sure
this
you get
evening.
this a lot, I'm sure.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
anticipate
Oh,
this.
absolutely. 35 years of this, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. With regards to photo simulations, is that something you folks will think about and I can communicate with Kate, and you've already asked folks here to communicate with Kate?
Yeah. We'll get those locations for you.
And then we can look ahead, to dates.
Morgan?
Yeah, just like follow up on what Amy said about like third-party environmental reviews, like when you're asking about the subdivision, love the questions you guys were asking about, stormwater runoff, beginning with habitat, main archaeological, are those similar requirements to this? And is like, federal government shut down, we weren't able to go through the proper channels, for first third-party environmental. Yeah, I was wondering like what the environmental studies done. The Goose River is a really important watershed. And that's really important habitat. Wow. Yeah, which is great. Yeah, that's these migration flyways.
would imagine that it does.
We do have a vendor, Trileaf, that has looked at all of this, and as you can note from the plans. There are, erosion control plans, wetland delineations, everything is set forth in the plans.
No, so still there can be still a third party environmental review.
Correct.
Curious what Article 8 is.
It's the environmental standards. Yes,
We've got the coordinates of the dump on Colonel Stairs.
okay, great.
You want them now or do you want me to write them down after?
Yeah, if you could give them to me after.
Yeah, it's 44.03287 degrees north.
How about you get, how about? Yeah. Could you give those to me after?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes.
It's definitely, I think, more efficient for you folks and for me if you collect the information.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other citizen comments? Yeah.
So, and to be clear, Verizon customers are the biggest beneficiary. So like everyone else will not benefit. Potential for benefit, but not benefit.
Verizon Wireless is the first wireless provider that will co-locate on the facility.
So we have like a potential, like, are there?
I
just 'cause,
will,
like,
I will, I will
Verizon's
ask,
not the biggest.
I will ask the question as to has there been any interest expressed from AT&T or T-Mobile?
Because that's, the big impetus is that it's gonna improve coverage. But if the Verizon carriers are in the minority, and I know it's gonna say it's creating potential, yeah, just like. If we're doing this to increase coverage, but it's actually not only helping a very small amount of people, and what is the cost benefit now?
I understand and appreciate the question, but can't discriminate from one carrier to the other.
Right.
It is a good lawyer answer. Thank you.
Roaming. You probably could roam to a different network too. Depends on your carrier.
Again, I appreciate all of this and we certainly, I will have project engineer, RF engineers
Fantastic.
when we finalize the application, which we won't finalize that until after we do the site walk and the balloon
Right.
test. So
Yeah,
Is there a rough estimated time for the balloon?
it'll be at least 3 weeks.
yeah,
Because we have to put in a notice in the
Yeah.
paper.
I've got to
That
coordinate with the
takes 2
vendor.
weeks.
Yeah, I was wondering like 2 weeks, 5 months.
Yeah, I would say 3 to 6 weeks.
So we'll have to give a weather date because if it's too,
What's the objective of the balloon test? Why do a balloon test?
we float a balloon in the location of the proposed tower at the height of the tower, so 186 feet. We'll take photos of that balloon flying in the air, and then they will take the proposed structure, superimpose it so that you'll be able to see what it will look like if the tower was built in that location.
But what I'm asking is, does that then present a chance to object to the project, or is it just sort of going
It's-
through the motions? This is.
It's a photos,
Photos.
no, photo simulations are a requirement of the ordinance that we need to do those. So we won't even file our application with the requisite application fee, with the requisite notice to abutters until that is done. So,
Until the test is done.
correct.
But what about reaction to the test and of the property owners whose views you're photographing?
We'll hear those reactions once we file the application.
And is that the board that hears?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a preliminary application. There will be a.
Yeah.
This only requires 2 meetings, right? Yeah, so there will be another meeting where There will be new information, the photo simulations. Hopefully, some of this other information that we've asked for today will be reflected in this final application.
The sidewalk is also technically a public meeting. If you
That's-
can attend.
Yeah, that's my next question. The next meeting, is it just me with us saying, deeming the application is complete and then noticing the meeting, or am I bringing everyone with me once we get all this done?
I'm not sure that I understand your question.
Submit we'll do the site walk with the balloon test. So that'll be the next meeting. Because it has to be, the site walk is a public meeting. So
Okay, gotcha.
It has to, if this board gets together more than one or two people, we have to notice it as a public meeting, so that the site walks are technically.
I understand that, yep.
So that'll be a public meeting for us to gather more information, and then presumably you will submit.
Final
finalized
application.
application, and then we'll have a meeting again in this room with your engineer, with everybody.
Gotcha. So I'm on the same page.
Okay.
Thank you
Good.
for clarifying that.
Sure.
Is it possible to schedule the site walk while it's still light out? Or does it have to be during?
I don't know why we would do it at night.
I'm sorry.
I don't know why we would do it at night.
No, that's what I'm asking. Is the site walk, does the site walk have to be the same time as this meeting, or is it scheduled earlier?
Oh, no, we'll do it during the daylight.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
No snipe hunts.
I mean, if we want to do it in the dark.
No.
Kidding.
Got anything in your car?
Susan?
You've mentioned many times the lack of coverage in this area. How do you know that? I mean, was it something you tested to see if there Verizon? Were there complaints from people that they're not having service?
So
What
is
initiated
exhibit 3 to the materials, the pre-materials that we submitted is a complete report from Verizon Wireless's radio frequency expert, who will come to me or come with me to a hearing and will present the existing coverage and what the proposed or new coverage would be with the facility. So it's
But can you?
a lot of science.
Can you answer the question? What were there complaints from people to Verizon that they were not getting good enough coverage, or did Verizon decide they wanted to expand their coverage area?
So Verizon Wireless has licenses from the FCC,
I understand that.
so I don't know if any customers have complained, but in order for Verizon Wireless to maintain its licenses, it has licenses in this town, in this area. And they are required under that license to provide coverage. And if you look at those exhibits, there's clearly a significant gap in coverage along.
But why now then? If their license, were their licenses up for renewal? Were they in violation? Why now?
It's all part of their network build out plan. They can't do it all at once. I mean, we've been building
So what if at the
sites
bottom
since
of the list again?
1994.
Go another 10 years.
I don't determine their build schedule. We can ask those questions to the RF engineer, but the documents are crystal clear with regards to the coverage and the lack of coverage, and specifically where there's no coverage and how it's impacted with the surrounding sites. So.
Morgan.
So just to be clear, that coverage map is only for Verizon.
Correct.
Is it worth getting in the document and just a general coverage map? Is that a reasonable ask? Just to see like what the.
Not a reasonable ask for us where it's just Verizon Wireless. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not sure how
They're just
we would
asking.
go about doing that. Yeah.
my guess, I think we all know the answer to that, because in those documents, we list all the towers and sites that are propagating. And you know, if there was coverage in this area, then there would already be a structure from AT&T or T-Mobile that Verizon Wireless would co-locate on. So I think what we're gonna find is if this site is approved, that, you know, build it and they'll follow.
So in the maps there, that show the coverage areas, it also shows the locations of all the towers. And those are not Verizon towers, those are all of the towers in the area. I had the same question and went to the database.
I was really interested in this, like I drive those roads all the time, so I know exactly where the dead spots are. So I was surprised to see all that white, because I was like, there's definitely service there, but maybe just not with Verizon.
I have another question. The tower in Friendship that's on the firehouse. Could that be brought up more? The height in that be increased, and would that solve some of the gap in coverage?
So that's a great question for the RF engineer.
Sarah?
I think I'm remembering this correctly, but I think I remember reading in the communication that I got today that Blue Sky is anticipating 3 more, possibly 4 more towers in this area. Do you know what their location could be?
I don't know that, but I can ask.
I guess I would also just, I don't have this in my lexicon to know the answer of the scope of it, but why aren't we considering other technologies like cell service extenders and things like that that are less invasive, intrusive, and eliminate the need for this, you know, in our neighborhood.
I don't think any of us are telecommunications engineers in the room. This is not being done at the request. This is a private development. It's a good question for the
So I guess-
engineers, I guess, at the next
Yeah.
meeting.
It goes back to a little bit of what, I think in terms of like. When the town denied this and feeling like we can't, and yet. If this is something that the town, if there is a proven gap in coverage, what's to say that's the only solution? So if the town recognizes that there is and wants to do something about it, why can't that town take the initiative to solve it in a way that is not going to impact negatively for so many reasons, so many people?
I think that's a great idea, but I don't have any idea how to solve that problem.
Write that down and we'll do some more.
Okay.
But I do think it's fair to ask your engineers what alternatives they've looked at other than building a tower. I mean, that's a fair question.
But they're in the business of building towers. That's what their business is. So it's not in their interest to look at other methods.
Other methods.
But for Verizon Wireless, who's the first carrier here, there's an exhaustive site selection process. And first and foremost, you go out and you look at all existing, you know, structures. Are there any? You go around and you look at rooftops or anything else that's tall, or someplace that you could co-locate an antenna, co-locate their technology so that you could close that gap in coverage. So last resort for Verizon Wireless is to say, hey, we need a new structure, a new tower, and it needs to be at a minimum this height to satisfy this coverage objective.
Because it's more expensive for them to build a tower.
Oh,
It-
yes.
I mean, I don't pretend to be a, whatever Brendan was saying about communications engineer or any of that. I don't, but I've, you know, lived in the area off and on since the 70s and know enough about the local topography to not be surprised that there is a dead spot. I guess the cost benefit analysis for me is what I said at the very beginning is the gain worth the expense? And I'm not sure that's entirely this group's decision because, you know, but that's, I guess that's just where my brain is at. But I mean, this is a challenging topography if your goal is to have service everywhere, just is. I mean,
And is that the goal? Is that ultimately what's the end point? Is it so that there's a tower every 5 miles?
Much closer than that. I mean, the objective here again is that Verizon Wireless has licenses with the FCC, and under those licenses, they're required to provide, to maintain those licenses, they're required to provide coverage in those licensed areas. In this area, there's again, significant gap in coverage.
It feels like that's the only tool, you know, that there's a limited number of tools in that toolbox. And that we're not giving them a chance to consider other tools to solve this problem.
well, again, I think it's due diligence on everybody's part to, I think it's reasonable to ask your experts what alternatives they've considered, including the question raised earlier about heights and locations and on and on and on and on. I mean, you know, maybe there's.
Can we reduce the height of this structure? Is there, you know,
Is there a better location? Which
Location.
was suggested. I mean, that's, I think it's worth asking all those things as part of the due diligence.
So just to clarify, are those the types of answers that we'll have the information at the next meeting, or it's at the next meeting that we're seeking, you know, that we're proposing those questions?
I will do as much preliminary work on getting some answers, with, you know, I'd like to come prepared with, the RF engineer having some maps to demonstrate that if we go lower, you know, it doesn't work. Or we can go lower, but we're not gonna co-locate. And then I would encourage the board to say there are, you know, there's a section in the ordinance with regards to co-location, so there's a balance, you know, there.
Any further questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming and speaking so well on this topic. If you have thoughts about locations to do the photo simulations, please come up and write down the addresses, contact information. And we will send that along to the applicant. There will be a notice posted at some point here in the near future in the Lincoln County News. Do you also post in the Villager?
Just doing.
Just in Lincoln County, okay. So for doing the site walk, if anyone wants to attend, you can always contact the town planner, Kate, who can give you more information about that. And I imagine in a couple of months, we'll have the final application. So if you have any further questions, ideas, feel free to reach out to us. Our emails are all on the town website. Yeah,
Well, just,
my name's Brendan.
no, but Eric, is that Eric? Okay, a good question he had was, could there be I'm just thinking if I'm at a site walk, then I'm not at home looking at the balloons, so or are those separate?
I have no idea.
Yeah, so if there could be a couple of times that there's the opportunity to be on site for the site walk, but then another time that the balloon is hung so that I can be.
I think we'll, I mean, you know, we would say, let's fly the balloon from X to X and then everyone meet at the site. Whatever they decide they're gonna keep the balloon up for.
Okay,
You know, we can work that out.
Alright.
But yeah, it won't be at the same time. So I mean, it'll be the same day, but correct.
Sarah, you have a question?
I just wondered if it's gonna be hard for you if we write down our address for wanting to have a photograph taken. Like on my property, I would like it in a specific location on my property, so I can see what it looks like from like it's a particular place. Would it be easier if we like emailed you a little sketch or something, or is that acceptable on this one?
I think they're gonna have to get waivers from all of you anyway.
Yeah.
And
If anyone wants and you know, this has got to be, I'm gonna use the word reasonable. A specific location, then, you know, we'll, as long as we have a waiver, put a stake in, you'll probably be there. You know, there's nothing stopping any of you from taking your own, you know, photos of the balloon, you know, as well. So.
Okay. There's no other questions. I'd like to move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor? So moved. Thank you, everybody. Told you.